Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here with you here again. We select this title, this topic for us to discuss because we need to revisit the basics. Sometimes we come to the Spiritist Center for a long time and read a book here, a book there, but the pillars of what Spiritism, how this came to be, and what it means, and what's the purpose of all of this. I think it's, that's the reflection of the night, okay? And because everything gets recorded here, if you have a friend that you're having a difficulty to explain about Spiritism, I just go to that place and I feel good, it's good, vibration and peace, and you need more than that. We need more words, we need more explaining, we need a lot of rationale. So our YouTube channel, it's just look for Peace and Knowledge. Every lecture, Portuguese, English, gets recorded. It's there. So perhaps we can use this as a tool to explain, to send a link, and perhaps it will help you explain what Spiritism is about. I think Livia's title was like Spiritism. Say what was it?
Right behind you.
Yep. Spirituality, logic, and science meet perfectly in Spiritism. So I like this picture because it's so simple, and simple is good. Simple is so good. It's like there is like 4 basic pillars. There's more, and we're going to talk about explaining Spiritism. But you see right in the center there, that's the most important pillar, which is God. God is in the center of Spiritism. And then you have right next to it, you have another one, that's our soul. We are eternal beings. That's our soul. So that's like a second pillar. And that is also, there are only 3 things that exist: God, Creator, Spirit, us, which is our continuation of that power, that intelligence, and matter. And with that intelligence, with that matter, we create so much. Everything that we have created, everything that we see, we can touch, and and everything that's matter, it has a lot of intelligence invested in it. That intelligence comes straight from the Creator. And the other pillar is the plurality of our existence, because of we are immortal beings, spirits, but we are created simple and lacking knowledge, or ignorance, if you like. And we need to have many existences. We have to have many trials and for us to perfect. And the last pillar, it's our constant progress. It's our path to perfection. One day we will be all enjoying a path of perfection and closer to the greater intelligence. And until then, it's our journey. You can interrupt me, ask me questions. I thought this was already set up towards the end. I'll talk a little bit about the U.S. Spiritist Federation. It has a lot of resources there. There's books, there's information. And there you go. Before we talk about Spiritism, it's important that we understand this, because maybe it's not your case, but there is a lot of taboo still about Spiritism, about spirits, because, people avoid the subject. It's still kind of, esoteric, exotic, weird, it's like there is a lot of misinterpretation, misconception, and prejudice even. And that sometimes keep us, put us in the shy light of the whole subject and the good essence there is. So one way to explain Spiritism, spirits, You you can talk about science, physics. How about frequency? I got this this is, I don't know how old is this boy. His name is Max. It's so amazing, and this is a proof of reincarnation. This kid with so much intelligence in such a young child, and you see these prodigies, and we see the evidence that we go, we come back, and we accumulate everything that we need emotionally, morally, intellectually, and we come back and we do not lose it. We keep progressing. Let's see. I might have a little issue with the audio. Let's see if we can have Max talk to us a little bit. Just give us a second here, because we go back. I think we need to work with the sound there. Maybe our friend in the back can help me. Or sometimes it's in our computer here, right?
There's a speaker with an X on
Okay.
the bottom.
The speaker is fine here.
There you go.
Good. Speaker is good.
Try to run it again.
Okay. All right. Let's see if Max can hear.
The wisdom from Max. The universe doesn't speak English. It speaks frequency. And this is the most honest language in the world. Think about it. If you say something in a language, you may doubt it inside of you. Or you could even lie to yourself. Frequency doesn't lie. If your thoughts, mind, and desires are not aligned, you may not reach that frequency. Everything around you, including you, has a frequency. Even my cat has a frequency.
Isn't that great? So much knowledge. Our thoughts has frequency. Frequency is it's the most pure language. You cannot lie. It is because it is in nature. It is innate on us. We are, frequency's got matter. It's got energy in it, but it's a very, very sophisticated and very light matter that we don't even see, but there is frequency going on everywhere. This microphone here that we're talking about, it's frequency, and everything that you think about, everything that we are able to have in technology nowadays, it is because we learn how to capture energy in so many sources, in so different ways, and we, because of our intellect, our intelligence, we have created ways for us to take advantage of that. But we are made of frequency. We are that's our basic language. And in order for you to understand spiritism, it's important for us to have this concept. Because we're not seeing them, it's, it doesn't mean that they're not there, because we are spirits to start with. And because I don't see a spirit, doesn't mean that I'm not having any communication with that spirit because I'm not talking to him. No, because we communicate with our thoughts, right? So if we are thinking whatever we're thinking, and our thoughts generate emotions generate energies, and that energy will connect through frequency, according to Max, and he's absolutely right. So I'm gonna go to about 20 different principles, what Spiritism believe in, and we explore little by little each one of them. Is good to revisit. And before we do that, according to our codifier of the Spiritist doctrine, Allan Kardec, in his he explained Spiritism from the prologue of this What Spiritism. He wrote so many books, but there's 4 basic books, and he wrote some supplementary explanation what Spiritism is. One is called this What Spiritism, and there is another one called Spiritism in its simplest expression. And that is very tiny book we have here too, and he adds more words to it. But very simply put, Spiritism, it's a science. It's science. It's not, oh, Spiritism is a religion. No, before Spiritism, it's even a philosophy. Spiritism is a science. It's a science which deals with the nature, with the origin and the destiny of spirits, as well as their relationship with the corporeal world. When we're doing the medians studies here, the course, the 3-4 years. I remember Livia was our instructor. I don't know if Rudy had that. If you remember, we go over this and we do a little theater, Spiritism, we study, it's a science and also philosophy that study the origin, the nature, the destiny, and the relationship between the spiritual world and the corporeal world. Okay, simply put. A+, right? So let's explore that, because here, Allan Kardec, who was he has so many accolades. He was a very, very studious. He was a scientist. He was a philosopher. But most of his best quality was an educator. He was an educator. He studied in his young age with Pestalozzi, and he revolutionized education in France back on early 1800s, and Spiritism. He wrote he started with the doctrine, writing the Spirits book, and that was really the start of everything. But he had he was a member of the scientific society and many parts there. He founded the Parisian Society of Spiritist Studies, and in November 1st, 1868, and we have this from the Spiritist Review, which is a magazine, he lines up all of those principles, what we believe in, and then he does a closing. That's what we're going to go over one by one. So that's what we believe in. That's what Spiritism we believe in, and we teach, and we try to pass it on what we learn. One God who is all-powerful, sovereign, just, and good. Okay? Very similar. We can say that we are Christians as well, because not just we believe there is one God and is all-powerful, sovereign, just, and good. In question of the Spirits book 625, there is Allan Kardec asks, to the superior spirits, is there like a guide, a motto? How does this evolution, this path to perfection work? Is there some guideline? Is there something we can use to follow? And the answer is very short. Yes, just look up to Jesus. Jesus is the motto and the guide. The soul and its immortality, the pre-existence of the soul as the only justification for conditions of the present, the plurality of existences as a means of expiation, of reparation, and of moral and intellectual advancement. Let's take a pause here, because there's a lot to pack in here, right? So that's exactly what we're talking about, because when we're talking about when existence, let's say an average 80 years old, when if you're very healthy, let's say now that longevity has extended a little more, if you're very healthy, your genes are good, the universe lines up, let's say you're my grandfather lived to 96. My wife's grandfather lived to be 100. That was pretty good. But that's nothing. It's nothing. That's nothing. For instance, my Jenny's grandfather, he was a farmer. He was born a farmer, Irish descent, and in the middle of Missouri, farming. When he was 18, 19, that was the Second World War. He got recruited. He went to the war. He was a tank commander. He fought the war. He came back a hero. He went back farming. Guess what? He farmed until he was 100 years old. When he was 90, until he was 98, he was still waking up at 5 in the morning and doing his chores and passing on the baton to my brother-in-law, to take over the farm, and life is good, but very simple. But he was happy. He was a widow for about 25 years, this is, I'm sure he learned a lot, and he's taken a lot what he learned here, and that's probably what he needed in this existence. But there is so much more for us to learn, to experience, to live. He probably traveled the world when he was in the war because of the situation, but he probably lived in a very simplistic life that he was happy the way things were, because that's his mission was probably be a family man, just be there, be like a strong pillar, foundation for the generations to come, and build something for the others to come and keep with it. But we have what's called expiation, and we also have reparation, because that deals with moral imperfection. Okay, expiation. The word comes from Latin, if I'm not mistaken, which expiare means purge. You take out, you clean out. It's like we are cleaning from. We're getting rid of stuff that we did in the past. Let's say in a previous existence, I wasn't a very good person. Let's say that I was kind of a very violent, and I committed crimes, and I did a lot of bad stuff because I was so ignorant, and I was probably so self-centered, and that's how my life was. I'm just giving an example. I don't know about that information. I hope not. But if it was, I think most of us, we were, because since you go back to prehistory, it was always a survival, right? So we've been killing each other forever. We just recently stopped, sort of, right? Sort of. In parts of the world, we still live very in the primitive era. And that's how, pride, selfishness, the sense of preservation, the fear is still there, and people keep killing ourselves. But as we move on, we all have our own identity. We all have our own, regardless of what we do collectively, our existence, it depends only on us. It doesn't matter if, everybody in my family or my circle of friends are doing things this way, and they're doing good for them, but whatever I'm doing, I'm responsible for it. I'll be accounted for it. Because remember, we as an eternal being, and there is a very romantic and poetic part in the Bible that says, there is a book of life that everything you do is recorded there, and on Judgment Day, everything is going to be recounted, and you're going to revisit all of that. And another part of the Bible says that that's actually in the Gospel. That's actually Jesus in the Sermon of the Mount. That don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about what you're going to wear, what you're going to do. Don't worry about anything. Even the hair on each hair on our head, it's counted. God knows us personally, individually. We have this relationship. So we have the expiation and we have reparation. So we come, and that's why sometimes we come and we have more hardship, because when we go to the spiritual world, we learn and we revisit everything. It says, yes, in retrospect, I could have done things differently. Maybe when I have another opportunity, instead of living in this region, if I can, probably I can live here, not have too much material, too much wealth, less wealth. Let me just be a hard worker, or have a simpler life and not be in contact with everything I have. So much distraction. So I asked for that. That's my reincarnation plan. And reparation is actually, like the word says, we repair. It's like, if I have a conscience that I did something wrong, okay, I'm in position to do better now. I wronged you, okay. Maybe I wronged you so bad in the other life, now you come as my son. And I will treat you as a king, and and I'm gonna work for you, and I'm gonna make sure that you're happy in this life, because deep inside that relationship that we create, whatever bonds we had, it doesn't go away. We need to expiate and we need to repair, because just like it says, the universe aligns not by itself. We align with the universe. There is no math that is incorrect in the math of the world, in the math of the laws of nature, in the math of God. Everything closes out. So at the end, we need to close out everything. And that's what it is, part of our moral and intellectual advancement. Does it make sense? It's a lot to unpack, right? For just this. But this is the heart. This is the heart of Spiritism. Because in our path to find perfection, it's not like you need to be, our struggle, it's not to be perfect. Because that's going to be a consequence of everything we do. That's just going to be a consequence. Our struggle and our goal is to be aware of our imperfections and work on it every day. And as much as I work with the negatives, if I start canceling out negatives, what happens? I don't have as much negatives, right? I start cutting that out. I start edging that out, and I can have more peace, and I can focus in what I need to focus. The perfectibility of even the most imperfect beings and the growing happiness that corresponds to the process of perfection. That's exactly it. This is the law of justice. No one of us, receives more than others. We all equals. What the difference between? But how come everybody's different? That's a fair question. Well, if we're all equal, we're not really equal. Look at the mess this world is. Again, if you look at this, you have to go on top of the mountain and look to have a broader view. You cannot just look very linear from the bottom of the mountain looking up. It's the opposite. You have to go on top of the mountain and look. You have a broader view, so you have see the whole forest. We are living different individual journeys. But at the beginning, we were all the same from scratch. God is just like we said. One God who is powerful, sovereignly just, and good. So that's the balances for us to reach perfection. And so as we need to grow, some of us we're going to go faster. Some of us we're going to do like in quantum physics, right? It's just like you cannot even explain in regular physics. You need to use quantum because you did so much in that existence. Just like I used the example of Mother Teresa, right? Of Calcutta, Mother Teresa. Nobody has any doubt that she's an enlightened spirit, right? And she was, in her previous existences, she was always pursuing having a life like being a disciple of Jesus, a follower of Jesus, a true disciple of Jesus. But I watched her documentary a couple of times. It comes to a point that she starts to doubt if she's really living a life that is worth what she's been seeking to be in. She was a teacher in a very privileged school, and she would look at the window. There was people starving, children undressed, and violence, and people dying, and she was in that privileged situation. She was teaching Christianity. She was teaching. She was giving education to young girls. It comes to a point she says, I need to do something about it. And she opens up, and she says she was actually, Jesus was talking to her. He says, you have to get out of those walls. You have to be out there. Just like he says, go feed my flock, right? That's what Jesus says to his disciples, to Peter. If you love me, go take care of my flock. Anything that you do for these little ones, you're doing for me. So that's what she did. In this last existence, her jump to this moral perfection, especially the moral perfection, because perhaps she had already reached the intellectual perfection and everything else. But here she just jumps and she gives such a huge example of humility, of peace, and charity at work. This is love at work. She was there and she was not concerned about her life and how, if she was going to have anything to eat the next day or so. She was doing what she was feeling she was being called to. Let's continue. There's more. The equal rewards for good and bad, in agreement with the principle of to each one according to his work, which is pretty much the law of cause and effect, right? To each one according to his work. That is why, if in one existence I am really, really centered just on myself, and I'm just, my work revolves around me, and when people need me, and I wasn't there to, so probably this is going to be, I'm going to reap the plants that I sow. So if I didn't give much, and now I need to receive, I'm probably going to have a hardship, because it is equal. It's just like we're talking, the math matches out. So that is when we're talking about reward, it's based on the law of justice. That's the justice that is just natural. The equality of justice for all, without exceptions, favors or privileges for any individual. Exactly what we're talking about. Nobody was born more privileged. How come, children and people so innocent, they die and they're victims of so much calamities, this violence, we're talking about these wars, how many children died and how many people that they were just caught in the middle, and is this fair? It's not fair, right? What kind of justice, what kind of God is this, right? If God is just, how can he allow that? This is the question that blocks most people, not just to believe in God, because God is it cannot be a blind faith, and that's what Spiritism is. It's what it says here: spirituality, logic, and science, all of that, and everything has a cause. So whatever happens to all of this, these victims of this violence that's going on, there is a cause, and there is nothing happens by accident. We all have our destinies. We don't know what's going to happen to us tomorrow. 7-8 years ago, I was having dinner, and I had a heart episode. I had a sudden cardiac arrest, and I was pretty much dead for about 13, 14 minutes until paramedics came. They shocked my heart. They took me to the hospital, and I survived. But that could be my last day here on earth. We never know. But because life goes on and continues, this is the path of progress. Whatever happens to us, it is part of our progress. It is part of our evolution. And nothing will go unpunished. Nothing will go without. There is no evil that is going to have always the strong hand. In fact, evil is just like the black holes, right? You look at the black holes, if you know anything about, I don't know much about physics, but I know that there is a bad creature out there in space called the black holes, and it eats stars. But guess what? Those stars, they're dying anyway. That's why they're vulnerable. It's like a vacuum system that's there. not everything has its purpose. That's the point. In the black hole is not the bad guy. If there is a purpose. That's probably why there is balance in the universe. Imagine, we have no idea what's out there. I can hardly take care of my garage on the weekends. I get swallowed by the mess I have in my garage. Let's continue. You guys doing okay so far? All right. The duration of atonement being limited or determined by the degree of one's development and or knowledge. See the word atonement? Atonement is exactly what we were talking before here when we talk about expiation and reparation. That is the same as our atonement. Atonement is the struggle we have to go through. It's the challenges. It's when the tough gets tough, the tough gets going, something like this.
Yeah.
When things get tough, the tough gets going. Is that Tim? How do you say that?
Going gets tough, tough keep going.
When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. There you go. That's atonement because we are evolving. We need that. We need that. If we wasn't for the dinosaurs and the tigers and the bears, everything that came after us when we're back on the cave ages, guess what? Life was good inside of that cave. It was warm and nice, and we could just go for a water and get a little whatever, but we needed to get moving. We needed to be challenged. We are challenged with our struggles every day, and that's part of the atonement. And that's the development of knowledge. The free will of a man, which always allows him to choose between good and bad. There he goes. We have free will. We're not machines. We're not machines. And this is, at least for me, is the most evident proof of God and His love and His justice towards us. Because we can do anything we want. We have free. We were free, regardless of the environment. We are born free. We have this free of choice, and we make our own destiny. And that is, if God is all powerful, all sovereign, and it's the creator of everything, and our journey is to reach perfection. Why didn't He make things a little easy for us? Okay, instead of going through 1,000 years of born and reborn again and try it again and go through the struggles, let's go to give us about 10 lives and just give us, take away all of this. Let's call it, take away all the garbage that we have to deal with, and let's go, God. Let's party, right? Let's party. Let's have a party. That is our nature of being comfortable and being pretty much selfish. That's the selfishness that exists in us. Because if at the end of the day, we're going to grow in so much intelligence when we're in that level of perfection. We have intelligence in so many ways, morally, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. We'll be able to go to different galaxies, and we'll be able to do so much and help another. We're going to experience real equality. We're going to experience real love, because now we all have love. We feel love. We give, we receive, but we don't experience like align with the universe. It's 8 billion people in this world, this earth. And if you count the people that you have tremendous love for, you're gonna count in your hands. Out of 8 billion, once we get to the level of perfection, that sense, that sentiment of love, of that sentiment of just everything that you breathe and you think, it's pure love and it's pure perfection, it's equal to all 8 billion or trillion, whatever amount it is. You guys following? Is it confusing? What are we talking about? Annabella, what we're talking about, you know. What are we talking about here?
Well, we're basically talking about how we have the choice to choose between the good and the bad, and how that can also influence us.
Excellent. See?
You take the mic now.
Annabella, she can come here and give us a talk, a lecture sometime. We are revisiting the basics and these principles that Allan Kardec was explaining what Spiritism is, what we believe in. So we believe in this, and he breaks it down. He continues. The continuity that links the visible world to the invisible world. The solidarity that reunites individuals, both incarnate and discarnate, in their past, present, and future. Wouldn't that be great? If at least, let's just put 3 generations, because it could be dangerous. If you could have a relationship with your great grandfather, grandmother, and your grandfather, your grandmother, and let's say that your parents also pass, and they're all living in the spiritual world, and here you are, you just have memories, and that's it, pretty much. There is no communication. We go by our day until comes our day, and then we go, and then it keeps going. What if it was different? What if we're just like we pick up the phone, and this will happen. This is coming when we're ready. We're not ready yet. We're still very primitive. We're still getting the layers of the onions out of us. But hey, pick up the phone. My father passed 2016, and my mom passed 2 years ago. And I pick up the phone. Hey, Dad, what's going on? Yeah. Can we conference with Mom? Yeah, just a second. It's conference. Hey, Mom, how come you're not with Dad? Oh, son, because I'm in this spiritual colony here on the other side. We have this situation going on there, and we're helping these people. Like, it's a place there called Russia, Ukraine. There, we're helping those people that are coming up from there. And your dad is doing something else. And we have a great conversation, and we talk, and then, you know, they might even come for dinner sometimes. Yeah. Wouldn't that be great? Once we have developed enough in us, and that we're talking about frequency. We'll go back to Max. You missed the little video, but Max, little boy, was talking about frequency. This is our frequency. This is our energy. They're there. This is, right now, our telephone, it's not possible. So once we go to sleep, and it's still very primitive, because even in our dreams, when we have this, our spirits get free, and we can go places, and we can meet people. And I have met my dad about 2 or 3 times. I haven't met my mom yet, but my dad, yeah, maybe he communicates in a different level. Maybe he's with the same energy level. My mom, probably she's in a different area. But we will get there. And that's what Spiritism is about. We not just believe in that. We know for a fact. That's a science. There is proof and evidence and everything. And at one point, we're going to be able to do all of this, past, present, and future. To consider the earthly life as a transitory and only one phase in the life of the eternal spirit. To accept trials with courage, foreseeing a future much more pleasant than the present. To practice charity in the most inclusive sense of the word, through thoughts, words, and actions. To make daily efforts to become better than the day before, gradually eradicating imperfections of the soul. Right? That's how it's like we're conspiring. If we don't just believe in all of those principles of the Spiritist doctrine, and we put that into practice, we study. That's why there's lots of books. We need to study. We need to have this knowledge floating inside of us, and we need to revisit. We're having a bad day. Remember that book of message? I think you just read a little message book. It's not just inspirational. Sometimes the little spiritual message will talk to the problem you're having right now. He will talk straight. If you're open to it, you have to be open. And especially if you're talking, at least, okay, we cannot, it's hard to speak with mom and dad right now, or grandpa, grandma. How about your spiritual mentor, your spiritual friend? They're there. They are dedicated throughout our whole entire, since we're little babies, since before we're babies, they were helping us come to this world. Once we are leaving this world, guess what? They're there with us again, just like, a chaperone, a friend, a mentor, like a parent, a life dedicated to make sure that you are not alone, to make sure that when you feel like God doesn't care for me, Jesus don't care, they know none of this, I feel so alone. So they're there. It doesn't matter if it's a girl, it's a guy, it doesn't matter. It's a spiritual friend, and they're there to pick you up and help you out. To make daily efforts towards becoming better. That's what I think would say our mantra, right? It's not to be perfect, to be pure. It's to understand the kind of struggles, understand, make those questions, what am I doing here? Why is this happening to me? Why? Take on the responsibility, understand our imperfections and work on them, and try to do better, one day at a time, baby steps. We're almost there, guys. To submit our beliefs to the control of free examination and reason, and to accept nothing on blind faith. That's the scientific part and the philosophical part of the doctrine. To respect all sincere beliefs of others, no matter how irrational they may seem, and to avoid violating anyone's conscience. To see in the discoveries of science the revelation of the natural laws, which are God's laws. So even for the most materialistic and atheist person, through nature and through science, we're always going to find God's law. Even if you don't care to know God, to believe it's there. This is the creed. This is Kardec, Allan Kardec now in closing of he's explaining, that's his speech to the Parisian Society of Spiritual Studies, 1868. Were you there? So he's closing, okay? That's his closing argument. This is what Spiritism is. This is what we believe. This is the creed or the belief of Spiritism. A philosophical, scientific, ethical, moral doctrine that can be conciliated with all forms of adoration toward God. It is the bond that must unite all Spiritists in an elevated communion of thought with the hope of joining all humankind under the flag of universal fraternity. So this is the main goal. And we're going to get there. If you're a Catholic, you don't need to stop being Catholic to be Spiritist. You can be a Buddhist, or you can have no religion whatsoever. It's not the religion that makes us. It's not. When we free ourselves with knowledge, we don't free ourselves with blind faith. When things, logic, everything, spirituality is logic, it's common sense. These are the 5 books of the codification. This is a web page from the United States Spiritist Federation. I cannot encourage you more to go visit, because they talk, everything we're talking about, they have all kinds of resources. There is even an AI spirit assistant, as you can see here, can help out. There is everything that you need to know about Spiritist Center, Spiritism, events, Allan Kardec, it's there. And all of these books are one teaching after the other. And since Jesus is our model and guide, we are Christians, and we are not a religion. But if you put all of this together, that we have God in the center, Jesus, and we believe in the moral perfection and in the immortality of the soul, not in the same sense of traditional religion, but we are a spiritual We are a spiritual movement. We are a religion in that sense, without any dogmas, without anyone in charge. That's why we're not a church, we're a Spiritist center. Because for us, what's important is knowledge and to practice the gospel, not just know the gospel. Put that into practice. That's what charity is. And this, for us to close, this is just a tease for you guys to do your own study on the Spirit's book. This is the first book of the codification. And for me, this is one of the most important questions. There's so many questions. What is God? That's question number 1 in the Spirit's book. Kardec doesn't ask, who is God? What is God? And the answer is like, God, it's the primary cause of everything. It's the superior intelligence that there is. In question 132, and there are 1,019 questions, okay? And the book is separated in 4 parts. This is a schooling, an education for our spirit, for our mind, and for emotions. It's fantastic. What is the purpose of the incarnation of spirits? God imposes incarnation for the purpose of leading spirits to perfection. We talked about that. For some, it is an expiation. Everybody knows what an expiation is about, right? For others, a mission. We didn't talk about mission before, because mission is when we are elevated enough that we already went through our expiation. So once we are moving on and taking the steps towards getting more perfect, more morally, we graduated from all of this, the expiations and the reparations that we have to do. Now we can be missionaries. Missionaries in the spiritual sense of what is the purpose of my existence right now? And if you find yourself, everything is beautiful, I'm so happy, everything, there is nothing, you imagine that you are the most happy person in the world. Guess what? You are a missionary that is missing a mission. A missionary without a mission. That's what your spirit should be seeking. Because, again, it always goes back to our model and guide. Who is? Who's our model and guide? Jesus. He says, and he's the most pure spirit that ever touched earth. What does he say? And that I'm calling it to this, the missionary part here. Whomever wants to follow me, and when he says follow me means if you want to be perfect like me. Look where I was born. I was born dirt poor with the animals. I had the death of the thieves in a cross. But guess what? I won this world. This was nothing. It was hard, but it's nothing. Now, you want to follow me? Take up your cross and follow me. That's the mission. Once we are open enough to do that, we keep going. And the going gets tough, the tough gets going. However, in order to reach this perfection, they must undergo to all the vicissitudes. Vicissitudes is all the struggle. It's another word for struggle. All the struggles of corporal existence. Therein lies their expiation. Incarnation has a further objective. See, that's 3 parts to it. Which is to place spirits in situations where they can do their share in the work of creation. Just like Grandpa J.R. His work in creation. He was a simple farmer boy that, guess what? He was called to a war that it wasn't his war, but he was called for, and guess what? He was courageous. He went there. He could have had given his life there. He went for his country. He fought it. He fought the Nazis. He came back, and he went back to farming. That was his work of creation. And he left the farm, and the farm is, 170 years old farm, and it keeps going. And that was his part. But we have other. We are God's in the making. God, the Creator, gave us the power to be creators ourselves, and that's the part of creation. One on each world, they clothe themselves with an instrument that is in harmony with the essential matter of that is of that world so that they may use the instrument to carry out the orders of God. Right now, the instrument we wear is this body, this nice body we have here. But if we are in Jupiter, we might not have this same body, the same presence that we have. Guess what? Because we don't need it. It's a different world. That's why we're looking for life in the planets out there, because we're looking for life like material life like ours. We're not going to find, we're so primitive, we're not going to find any life out there. The life out there already found us. They're here, they're everywhere. But the other way around is going to be hard. We're not going to find, because unless we go to more primitive worlds, and then we're going to find it, because it's going to be worse or equal to us. So hopefully it's not Mars. In this way, they contribute to the general work in progress at the same time. My friends, it's just a quick lecture. It's revisiting the basics. If we ask the question, this is, what is the purpose of incarnation of spirits? If I ask each one of you, can we do all of this in just one lifetime? Does it make sense for us just to have one goal and try to accomplish all of that? So the question is, why do we reincarnate? Not you. Cannot. You have offer any assistance? Why do we reincarnate?
So we are able to get to the root of our purposes.
Beautiful. Anybody offer? That's a good angle.
The lessons we have to learn.
The lessons we have to learn, because we cannot do everything. We don't learn everything once, right? Anybody any offer any different thought?
To purify ourselves so we get closer and closer to God.
There you go. To purify ourselves so we get closer and closer to God. Yes. Can we do this in those? Let's say we live 100 years, like Grandpa JR. God bless him. Great man, but he probably had 3 or 4 main events in his life. We are able to do a lot. So my friends, may you be so interested in learning more about Spiritism, because we've been over a decade studying, but it's so rich. There's so much just with the Spirit's book, and we're not against you reading the Bible. I read the Bible. I love the gospel. I go back and forth, and I have my Spirit's book. I have my wife. It's evangelical. We go to church, and everything works together. Like we say before, we not just respect other religions, but we take what's most the essence. If you can help, we help. If we cannot help, we listen and we learn, and we can share when we are able to share. God bless you. And we're going to do the 5 minutes vibration. You do that?